Hey everyone, Ray here with Rinksworks. Look what made it to my shop today. This is an Epiphone Special, modeled after the Les Paul, obviously. This is the exact shape that I got it in. You can see it's missing the bridge, and there's quite a few dings and dents and stuff on it, but I don't think it's hardly been played at all because I don't see any wear that would come from playing it. So I was just asked to make it playable, and that's what I'm going to do. This is the kind of guitar that you'd find at maybe a yard sale for 30 or 40 bucks, or maybe your cousin had it in his closet and he's going to toss it out, and so you pick it up because, I mean, it's not dumpster worthy. And, you can take a cheap guitar like this and make it playable for not much money, and somebody can actually enjoy it. So I don't believe in just throwing these things away. So we're going to take it, we're going to sink very little money into it, but we're going to fix it up and we're going to make it a playable, enjoyable guitar to use for somebody. And if you'd like to go on that journey and see how I'm going to do it, then stay tuned and we'll get started right now. All right, let's see what we got here. Again, this is an Epiphone. Come on, camera, focus. This is an Epiphone Special, it's called. It's a very cheap guitar, but it's not bad shape. There's a few things with it. The jack is loose. There's a bit of a gouge here in the finish. Some other gouges here, no big deal. This rear strap button is loose, and the felt is toast. It's got speed knobs on it, which are actually my favorite knobs. I love speed knobs. And the pots feel good. They're not notchy or anything like that. Selector switch has all positive movement to it, so that feels good. Some rust on the single coil pickups here. Obviously the bridge is missing. And you can see these aren't scratches, it's just dirt or dust or something. I think the guitar was just dusty. I think it was just probably left out of a case for a long time in a room somewhere and just got dusty. Now, fretboard. The fret ends are sharp. I can feel them all the way up. They're pretty sharp, so we'll address that. And we also have a gouge here. You see that? We're going to smooth it out, but we're not pulling the fretboard off of here and replacing it. This guitar is not worth doing that kind of work to it. Truss rod cover, still, I think it does. It still has the original plastic on it. So we'll peel that plastic off and make it look nice. The tuners, all of them spin nicely, and they're in good shape besides being dirty. Let's take a look at the other side of the neck. So as you can see, this thing has a matte finish, so it's not shiny, and we're going to keep it that way. I'm not going to do any finish work to this. We're just going to make it play good. So the electronics cover, these, there's some rust on the screws and stuff. I don't think any of the screws have ever been messed with. Now here's some interesting stuff here. So made in China, obviously, and inspected by someone named Gabor. And then when it got to the States, it was 100% inspected and set up by number 33 at the Epiphone factory. And then this sticker here, I have no idea. Is that a dumpster? And they're saying, don't throw this in the dumpster? I don't know. It's not a shop vac. It looks like a dumpster to me. So apparently you were not supposed to throw this guitar in the dumpster, which is exactly what we're saving this from, right? So let's get some tools out and we'll just fix this up and make it play great. And so somebody can enjoy it for cheap. Let's get started. I'm just going to plug this thing in real quick and see if we can tell if it even works. Alright, well, it makes noise. Alright, let's just get some of the stuff off it, make it easier to clean up. I'm going to take the knobs off and strap buttons off. Alright, the pickups. You see all the corrosion and rust on those screws. And you see it's not on those. I'm going to show you how I did that. Okay, I'm going to back each screw out. About 4 turns or so. Three turns, I should say. Okay. Man, this one's more corroded than this one was. In fact, I'm going to back these out a bit more because I want to be able to get down. Whoops. I want to be able to get down in there good. So I did 5 turns on each one. Now, to protect the plastic, I'm just going to get some tape down underneath the heads of those screws. Now, I'm just going to take a wire brush and give these a once over. Now, they're probably plated from the factory. Oh, this is a Chinese guitar. Who knows? Maybe they weren't. But if there was plating, we're taking it off for the most part. But, I mean, we don't want to leave all that rust on there anyway. So, the rust is already eaten through the plating. Okay, I cleaned those up about as good as we're going to get them cleaned up. So let's start cleaning this thing up. Now I know not everybody has shop air to do this, but you could do it with a rag. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the whole guitar with this. It's naphtha. I'll leave links for stuff in the description. This stuff won't hurt almost any guitar finish. And it does a really good job of cleaning without leaving any residue. And I'm just going to wipe down the entire guitar. We'll do the tuning pegs, fretboard, everything with this. And so when I get to the fretboard, I'll probably like really give it some good scrubbing, and I might even take my nail under here and get up against the frets, or I'll pinch the fret like that, and really clean those areas right at the fret along with the rest of the fingerboard. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the entire guitar like this. All right, before I clean these up, let's get rid of all these Chinese stickers. Who wants Chinese stuff on their guitar? Okay, it's all cleaned up. There's a few little nicks and dings in this guitar. We're not going to fix any of them. They're character marks. And the owner doesn't want to put a lot of money into it, and I wouldn't either. It's a cheap guitar to start with, but we can still make it play nice. The one thing I am going to address is there's a little area of chipping right here. Let's see if I can get that to focus. So there's a little bit of chipping off the fretboard right up here And if I rub my nail across it, you can probably hear it. What I'm going to do, I mean, it's fixable, but we're not going to fix it. We're going to just address it and make it less noticeable and comfortable to play. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a fine file and just kind of take off the sharp edges, and then some fine sandpaper and just sort of smooth that out just so you can't really feel it. You probably only really feel it if you had a monkey grip anyway, which you shouldn't have, which I do have, full disclosure, but you shouldn't. But anyway, we're going to make it so at least you can't feel it. The string, the sixth string, the E string comes across obviously right here. And I think if we just kiss that a little bit, I don't think you'll really notice it while you're playing. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of 4/0 steel wool, or excuse me, 2/0 steel wool. Kind of dull it back down. I looked at it through the camera, and it actually looks on the camera much worse than the eye sees it. Okay, that was a little bit of 2/0. Let's hit it with a little bit of 4/0. 4/0 meaning 4 zeros. And this will just kind of finish off the process. Yeah. All right, I went back through, I looked at the footage, and it looked like crap on the camera, didn't it? So what I did take it down a little bit more sanding with the sandpaper, and another hit with the 2/0 and 4/0 steel wool, and it made it much smoother. You can hear now when I rub my nail across it. You don't hear it. This is like a rosewood, which is pretty open grain, so that's why you're seeing all that open grain right in there. But it feels just fine now. So you could feel a little bit of indentation there, but it's not a big deal, especially where this is. So we're going to leave it with that, and let's move on. Now that the guitar is all clean, I want to polish the frets. We're just going to do that with steel wool. I'm going to mask off the area right at the frets, just so we don't put any cross marks across the fretboard. And I'm also going to mask off the pickups because we don't want the debris coming off the steel wool sticking to the magnets of the pickups. So let's get this all masked off. So now that we've got the pickups masked off and the frets or the fingerboard masked off, we're ready to take some 4/0 steel wool and polish the frets. But before we do, I noticed that as I slide my fingers up here, we've got some really sharp fret ends, meaning this area here. It's not down here where the fret comes through, but up here. And probably it was just kind of a poor job done by the factory. So we're going to address that real quick, and I'll show you how we're going to do it. All right, to get rid of these sharp edges, right along the edges here, I'm going to use this is called a fret dressing file. It's got a cutting edge on this surface, on the flat surface, and this one. And one surface here is rounded over and smooth. So you can use this and not dig into your fretboard. You could actually do this prior to taping off if you wanted to. And then you have another edge over here that also doesn't have a cutting surface that is flat. But what we're going to do here is we're just going to kiss those fret ends to make them not sharp. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with my rounded over edge here, I'm just going to take a little pass like that. And that's enough to knock off those sharp edges. So I'm going to just go down the fretboard. I'll check it. I'm just going to kiss them all once because I think that's all most of these are going to take. And I'm just sort of, you can see the motion where I'm just sort of rounding over. Like so. Now as I run my finger up, there's a sharp one right here still. I'll kiss that one again. All right, now that feels much better. So now I'll go through and do the other side. And we're not taking a lot off, just a little bit. Just to smooth those edges so the guitar is more comfortable to play. This file is about $10. And you could simulate this from any small file that you have. But I will leave a link again in the description, so if you want to get one, you can. You don't need to do this too often, but see, now it's like buttery smooth compared to this side, which is really rough still. So now I'm going to flip the guitar over to make it more ergonomic for me, and I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Okay, now that we have our ends all dressed up, we're going to just take some steel wool and we're going to go across the frets and polish them up. They've got a little bit of, corrosion, and not a whole lot of corrosion, but a little bit of nastiness. And it doesn't take much, just a few passes with the steel wool. I don't know how well the camera will pick up the difference. And I will use my fingernail, like on the edge here, on this edge. And then also my thumbnail on this other edge. And I'll give it a nice smooth finish. So I'll just go down now and do all the rest. So I'm just going to show you how these frets look. I put a couple arrows, I stopped right there, so I can try to show you the difference between when it's been polished up a bit and when it hasn't been touched yet. So you can see how much duller these frets are compared to the ones that we polished. Frets are all polished up. Now I did, after I went across this way with the steel wool, then I also went this way to clean up or to polish up those ends that we filed. I probably should have put some tape here, but I was just really careful just not to hit the finish here. And same on the other side. So now I'll just take this, and you can see why I covered the pickups. You see all the debris from the steel wool? Well, pickups are magnets, and they would attract all this debris from the steel wool. So that's why they're covered. I'm going to take now and blow all this off. You can vacuum it, wipe it off, whatever you want to do. But let's get all this off, and we'll get the tape off, and then come back and treat the fretboard. So now we have a nice clean guitar. We've got some polished frets. So let's give the fretboard or the fingerboard a little bit of love. I'm just going to use this Old English lemon oil. Now, I do this quite often, so I have a rag that I use only for this. Just keep it in a Ziploc bag. And all we're going to do is just put some of this oil on this rag. And we're going to let it soak in to the fretboard a bit. So I'll do this across the entire fretboard. And then I'm going to let it soak for about 5 minutes. So I'll go down and do the whole fretboard and then come back. All right, about 7 minutes has passed. I'm just going to wipe it off now. And you can hopefully see that the fretboard looks much richer and happier than it did before. Okay. Give that a good cleanup off camera. So here's the bridge I ordered. I just ordered it off Amazon. Again, I'll leave a link. It was a cheapy thing. And you can guess where it was made. But I do believe this was the same kind of bridge that came on this guitar. And you can see it's got sort of intonation settings in it already. And the only real way you can adjust the intonation is by adjusting those two screws back on the posts to move it back or forward. So I left these in the guitar because why take them out? So we're just gonna put those in and let's get this thing set up. Before we go any further, I thought of something, and I'm glad I thought of it now because I've seen this actually happen before on these guitars. Your strings need to be grounded to the rest of your electronics. And the way that it's done on these is there's a wire, typically a wire that comes up, and this pinches that wire in there, and then that wire runs down to the ground of the electronics inside the cavity. And I thought, you know what, I better check, make sure it's actually grounded. So if you can see the meter, I think you can. If I go pot to pot, it should have continuity, which it does. That means these are electrically tied together. This likewise should be as well, and it is. Also, one of these, usually this one, should also be tied in there, and as you can see, it's not. So let's take a quick look at why it's not. And I'm going to do is I'm just going to screw in one of these old posts, and we'll see if we can't pull this one up. And sometimes they'll come right out, sometimes they won't. And that one came right out. And if I look down in there, I can see a wire, I think. So let me do a little bit of further investigating. All right, let's look down inside the hole there. You can see, I don't know if I can get a light in there so you can see it or not. Let's see. You can see that little hole there, and you can see there is a wire coming through it. So either that wire is not connected somewhere, or when the post goes in, it's not pinching it tight enough or something. So let me set you back up on the camera stand. Okay, I think I've got it where you can see everything. So I'm going to connect one lead of the ohm meter to the ground, and then I'm actually going to take a pair of tweezers. I'm going to pull that wire up a little bit so I can get a better grasp of it. I want to see if that wire is actually connected to ground or not. If it is, that's a good thing. It's be an easier fix. I think I got it. Okay, so it is connected to ground. So now we just got to see why it wasn't making connection. Okay, what I've done, if I get it to focus, I've kind of pulled that wire out and reoriented it a little bit. So we'll see now if we shove this post down in there, if we get some connection. I got my lead connected there. I got one connected to the post. And we'll watch the meter as I press it in. And now we are hitting it. Okay, I had a bad connection with my meter there. So there we are. I'm actually holding it on here. I had it on here. It was kind of floating around. So now we are grounded. Good thing we checked that. Let's move on. All right, so we're going to put our new posts in. And just another word about that electrical issue that's going on there with that wire. I have in the past had an issue where I could not get a good electrical connection made, even though the wire was in there. It could be that the wood was worn out and just couldn't get a good smashing into that post. And I took some solder, regular old solder like this, and pulled a bunch off and crushed it up into a ball and dropped it down in there. And then when I put the post in, it smashes that solder down along with the wire and keeps it all electrically connected. So just an option if you have an issue. I feel comfortable though with what we did here. Okay, so I took my 2 set screws. So we don't know exactly where we're going to want them yet for intonation purposes, and I just put them at about the halfway point. And this will just slide on here like so, and then we can adjust in and out this way as we need to. And same with, of course, the height. We'll have to figure out where the height is going to be. So let me get some strings out. This is what I use. I'm not a string salesman. It's just what I use. It's my favorite strings. They're 9 to 42. So I like these on electric guitars. It's what I put on all my guitars. So anyway, let me get some strings out and we'll string it up. So since this is a one-piece tailpiece, basically, bridge, instead of having, a bridge and a tailpiece, these strings are going to go through the front side, and then they're going to wrap around up over the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring all the strings in for now. And get them started so we can fairly quickly string this up. And this probably just as easily could be done off the guitar. In fact, let's just do that. Okay, and we'll set the bridge on there. And we'll move up to the headstock. All right, let's string this up. So the first thing we've got to make sure is we keep the bridge tight against the posts because it can slide off. So I'm grabbing my low E string and I'm keeping tension on it now as it wrapped around the bridge. Now I'm gonna just feed it through. I've actually got all my string holes lined up like that on all of them. So I'm just gonna feed it through. My eyes will work. And basically pull it tight. Now I like to go, hopefully I can do this without blocking your view. I like to go about 2 1/4 inches past your post that you want to string up. In the case of these Gibson style guitars, it's about a post and a half worth of length. So I'm just going to pinch it right about there. And then I'm going to bring it back. And then I'm going to take the top and I'm going to wind it around once over the top like that. And then I'm going to bring that up like that. And then I'm going to wind it on. And I am keeping pressure on the bridge, although not enough at the moment. Yes, I am. And I'm not going to go anywhere near the pitch yet. I'm just going to get the strings on. So I'm going to do the low E string first, and then I'll do the high E string. In this case, because since the bridge is resting on those two posts. Since the bridge is resting on those two posts, it'll keep the bridge square to do the rest of the strings. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. We're done with it. So now I'm going to grab the high E string, and I'm going to string it the same way. I'll go through the post. I'll go about, I usually go a little bit more on my unwound strings. And then bring it back. Go over the top of the first wind. And then the rest of the windings underneath. Keeps them nice and neat. Making sure that the wraps stay neat and don't bind up on each other. Okay, so I got nice good wraps there, and I'll go ahead and cut this off. Now I'm just going to repeat the process with the rest of the strings. I'll just go in order now. So I'll do the A string, and then the D string, and so forth. Because now I don't have to worry about the bridge falling off. Just wanted to mention real quick, when I put the bridge on, when I put the posts in, I screwed them all the way down because we didn't have a bridge before. Plus, we don't even know if it's the same type of bridge that came off of here, although I believe it is. So I screwed it all the way down, and then I backed it off just a little bit. All I wanted to do was make it so that when I put the strings on, they weren't pegged down against the frets or way up too high like that. So I just, once I put the first string on, I just kind of eyeballed it, raised it up a little bit, and I'm actually going to be pretty close, to be honest with you. I might be a little higher on the treble side. But anyway, we just want to get it close. Now we'll go ahead and tune it up to pitch and then start the setup. I'm just using this little clamp-on tuner. We'll get them up close. It's kind of slow. Okay. Real quick, I'm just going to give these strings another, let's give them a little bit of tug, stretch them out a little bit. I'm not yanking on them hard, just giving them a little bit of stretch, and then we'll tune it again. You can see that stretching them changed it quite a bit. And you can see that the wound strings got stretched more than the other ones. All right, let me get set up and we'll move on to the next step. All right, I went through and tuned the guitar, but I did it in the playing position. All of the steps from now forward are going to really should be done in the playing position, but due to cameras and all that stuff, I'm going to do it on here, but know that I'll be doing final adjustments in the playing position with the weight off the neck. So the neck won't be balanced on the neck rest or anything like that. But for camera purposes, it's easier to do it this way. The other thing I want to talk about tuning real quick, when you're tuning, let's just do the D string real quick. When you're tuning, always come up to the note. In other words, let's make this sharp. Let's say you're here. Don't come down to the D and stop like that. That would be incorrect. Always go down below the note and then come back up to it and stop once you get to your note. And if you go up above it, go back down below again and come back up. You'll stay in tune better that way. Okay, now we're going to move on to the truss rod adjustment. And the truss rod, what it is, it's a piece of steel. It's a steel rod that runs down the center of the neck inside here. You can't see it. And think of it like this. This could look like a truss rod. And what happens when you put your strings on, it's putting tension on the neck and wanting to make it the neck bow up like that. And the truss rod allows you to compensate for that. So it allows you to bring it back down or leave a little bit in there. Now, most guitars want a little bit of bow to them, just a little bit. Okay, and we'll talk about how much here in a second. So this particular guitar and a lot of guitars have a pocket right here and down inside there. In this case, it's an Allen head at the end of the truss rod that you can grab with an Allen wrench, like such. And you can tighten that or loosen that and put in the amount of bow in the neck that you need. So let's talk about how much we want, how we're going to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to put a capo on the guitar at the first fret, and then what we're going to do is we're going to depress a string at the 17th fret, and we're going to measure what's called relief. That's how much bow is being put on the neck. It's called relief. We're going to measure that at the 7th fret. Now, again, this should be done in the playing position, but for camera purposes, I'll do it right here. And it won't change too much, but it could change a little bit. Now, the amount of relief that we want here is that basically we're measuring from the top of the 7th fret to the bottom of the string. I usually use the A or D string to do this. And factory settings on most Gibson and Fender guitars is 12 thousandths, meaning this neck is bowed up just a little bit, right around 12 thousandths of an inch between the top of the 7th fret and the bottom of the string. You can measure that with like a regular old feeler gauge, but what I do is I have these little things. I just made these up out of old guitar strings. I drilled some holes, glued the strings into these old paintbrush handles, and I'll use these. And you can see I have them marked. So this was a 9,000 string, that was an 11, and that was a 16,000 string. So we'll start measuring. I'm going to try to readjust the camera and get you in here in a better view. Okay, so here's our 7th fret right here. That's where we're going to take our measurement from. Again, factory settings is usually 12 thousandths. That's what you're going to pick up and play at a music store on most guitars. It's sort of a catch-all, I guess, if you will. I like mine a little less than that. I like to make my neck as flat as I can get it without any buzzes. So I usually go for somewhere around 7 thousandths. But let me show you how we're going to get there. So you can't see, I think, but you can see the A string moving down. So I'm pressing the A string down at the 7th fret. Excuse me, the 17th fret. And we're going to measure here at the 7th. Now, you can use a feeler gauge like I'm doing here and just slide it under and see if you get any resistance, which I'm not. And this is a 10 thousandths feeler gauge. These are really big and bulky. This is not really ideal for doing this job, but it can be done. Let's do my guitar string method. Let's start out with 16 thousandths guitar string, and I'm just gonna run it under the string and over the fret at the 7th fret, and I'm completely clearing it. I'm not touching it at all. That means my height right now is above 16 thousandths. So we need to bring that down a bit. Now, I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so our adjust rod adjustment is down in here. It's an Allen head situation. In this case, it's a 4mm Allen head. That's fairly common. And you can use an Allen wrench like this. It's a little cumbersome when you're trying to get in there between the strings, so I'm using this instead. You see I have a handle on here, but do not wrench on this thing at all. You're going to be making very, very minor adjustments, and you will not see me struggling to move this thing, hopefully, if there's no problem with the truss rod. So I'm going to get it in here and get it on the there we go. And now I'm on the truss rod. I'm just going to see. Look at that. I can turn that by hand right now. That means there's no tension on this rod whatsoever. So that truss rod is not doing anything right now. It's completely slack, and the strings are pulling the neck up. So what I want to do, if I have bow up like this, I want to bring that down a bit in my case. So I'm going to tighten the truss rod clockwise, a little at a time, and we'll keep measuring this thing as we do it. So we're going to give it just a little bit. I don't even have any resistance yet, so I'm going to go a little bit more. Now I feel a little bit of resistance, and I'm just going to give it a little turn. I'm going to check it again, holding it down to the 17th fret, and I still have more clearance than 16 thousandths. So I'm going to go a little bit more. Now I'm starting to feel it move. Now I'm actually, I don't know if the camera or if the microphone can pick that up, but my guitar string, my tool here, is less. There's resistance here. So we're a little bit less than 16 thousandths now. So let's move on to the 11, and we'll keep adjusting. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to adjust more than that. And so the 11 moves freely. So we're going to give it a little bit more, not much. And I'm still a little bit above 11. I'm at the point now where it would probably be an acceptable factory setting. So now I'm getting some resistance there. Just barely. I'm going to go a little bit more. I really want to bring mine down to somewhere under 9. That's just my personal preference. Go a little bit more. Starting to really feel it work now. Okay, and now I've got resistance there. I'm going to move on to the 9 thousandths. So basically what I want for my guitars, I want some resistance there. And if I've got some, then I know I'm below 9. Right now I don't. I'll go a little bit more with this. I'm going to want this to set in and maybe even check it in a day or so as things settle down. So I'm still going to go a little bit more, and I can feel it working. Don't wrench on this thing again. You do not want to break it. You'll know if it's working or not. So I'm getting close now. Okay, now I'm at the point of I have resistance there. So that's where I'm going to stop. So I have right around 8 thousandths bow at the 7th fret. That's how much clearance I have. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So if I hold at 17th fret, you can see, and then I press the 7th, to have just a little bit of movement there, but not a lot, just a little bit, but there's some. That's what we want. All right, that's done for now. I will check out all this stuff again in the playing position later. So real quick, let's throw the tuner back on this now and see what happened. So we took the neck, it was a little bit like this, and then we made it a little bit straighter. So what we actually did was we put some more pull on the strings. So if we take the capo off now and check our tuning, you see how we're sharp. Because we added more pull to the strings. So I'm just gonna go through and retune it. You don't need to watch it again. Okay, let's set our string height. Capo still on. We're gonna go to the 17th fret, right there. And most guitars come from the factory at 1/16 of an inch. I often call that 4/64 also. Same thing. Capo still on, and measure from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. And I'm actually right on the money, which is, let's see if this side's high or not. Yeah, I'm actually right on the money. Totally lucked out. You know, you saw how we set this up. Now, if I did need to adjust it, we're going to leave it there. I still may need to adjust it. We'll see. But if I did need to adjust it a bit, with this type of bridge, I would detune the guitar a bit so that the strings weren't so tight. Get a screwdriver. I would put some tape or something over it because you can easily chip this chrome, and it looks really hacky once that's tripped or chipped. I would get a screwdriver, wrap some tape over it, like electrical tape, masking tape. I prefer electrical tape. Get in there in your slot and turn your screws down to lower it or up to raise it. On some other bridges, you would do each string separately, but this is contoured to the same way the neck is contoured. So that's your adjustment right there. So our string height is adjusted. We lucked out. Now we're going to adjust the nut height. Now this guitar has not been monkeyed with too much, I don't believe, since it came off the factory. So I'm going to remove my capo, and we're going to measure from the bottom of the first fret to the the top of the first fret to the top of the bottom of the string. Now, 20 thousandths is typical action here. So this is a good time to use your feeler gauges. I happen to have a 24 thousandths. So as long as I get some drag, which I do, you can hear it. You'd want to check each string, but I'm definitely below 20. And as long as I can play this guitar without a bunch of buzzing, then I'm not going to worry about it, unless there's one string higher than the other. This is factory nut. It hasn't been messed with at all, I can tell. So we're going to go with it. Now, if your strings were too high, you'd have to get in here with some nut files and stuff, and we'll save the details for another video. But if your guitar's fresh from the factory, you're probably good here. So we're done with string height adjustment. Okay, the next adjustment would be to adjust the pickup height. And a good rule of thumb is if you depress your string at the last fret and you measure from the pole piece to the bottom of your string, you want about a 1/16 of an inch on both sides. Pickups vary in how they adjust. In this case, each of these pole pieces can be adjusted for each string. A lot of guitars can't. You can just kind of adjust the pickup side to side. This kind of can do both. But so depress last fret, check 1/16 of an inch, same measurement for the back pickup, adjust as necessary. These are still factory set, so I'm going to just play it and see how it does before I do any adjustments on it. Okay, we need to set our intonation now. That's the last step in the setup. You'll notice I have a different tuner out here. This is a better one. It's faster. This one is a little slow for doing that kind of stuff. It's okay for doing quick setups, but again, this should be done in the playing position, but for the video purposes, I'm going to do it flat like this. And basically what intonation is when you pluck a string, any string, an open note, and then you fret it at the 12th fret, you want that to be the same. And if you were paying attention here, my open E is right on the money. And when I fret it at the 12th fret, it's flat. I already went through and checked all these, and they're all flat, but I'll just do the other high E just to show you. So you can see it's flat. So they're actually flat all the way across, which just is a little bit lucky. So the only adjustment that I have on this bridge is to move these two Allen screws in or out. And if I rotate them counterclockwise, that'll allow the bridge to come in a little bit. And if I do them clockwise, it'll pull it back because they're just resting up against these two posts. Now there's other bridges like this one here where you can adjust every single string with these screws here. In this case, here's a Floyd Rose. You can adjust every single string. So it's, a little easier to dial in, I suppose. In our case here, we don't have as much adjustment, so we're going to do all of our adjustments just by these two screws with this Allen wrench. And basically, since our notes ring flat, we're going to move the saddle forward towards the nut. If they were ringing sharp here at the 12th fret, we would move this back. So let me get set up now, and we will adjust this accordingly. Okay, so hopefully you can see the meter and everything here. I've got my little Allen wrench here. So we decided we needed to move our saddles forward more towards the nut. And by doing what we're going to do is turn this counterclockwise. I'm not turning it yet. Just getting the Allen wrench in there. So let's take a look here. I just want to show you what will actually happen. So there's E. And again, when we fret it, it's flat. Now watch what happens when I turn this. It's going to allow the bridge to go in. So the hard part is you got to retune every time you make an adjustment. You see that thing go flat? It looks sharp now, but that's because it's actually E flat. Now I got to retune it. I'm just going to do the bottom three strings here. Okay, now let's see where we are. At the 12th fret. Ooh, we're very close. You see that? We're still a little bit flat, but we're pretty darn close. See where we are up in the upper E. Probably going to have to adjust this side still, but let's take a look. So it's still quite a bit flatter, so we'll have to bring this side in. And what I'll probably do is I'm just going to make one more slight adjustment on this. We'll go just a little bit more. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to adjust it a bit because it also needs to go the same way. I'm going to take that one a little bit farther. Now I'm going to retune. Okay, now let's check it again. There's our E. Let's tune it up back to where it should be. Okay. Now we'll check it at the 12th fret. And we're still a bit flat. There's our A. Still a bit flat. Let's look at the high E. Still a bit flat, but I'm getting closer. So I'm going to keep adjusting this. I'll do it off camera so I have to watch the whole thing. I'll just keep going and I'll bring you back in towards the end. All right, after adjusting it as much as I could, I got it about where I'm going to leave it now. I ended up bottoming this one out. So this screw is all the way backed out basically, and the bridge is resting right against the post on this side and almost against the post on this side. And that's all the adjustment I have. Now I could, if I needed more, I could go in, pull this bridge off, and take this. This is the part that goes around the post. I could open that up more so that it'll allow the whole bridge to slide forward, but we're not going to do that. Now, since I can't adjust each string individually, what I did is I took the two outers, the two E strings, and got them as close as I could get them. So there's our E, our low E, and fretted. We're really close, about as close as I'm going to get it. And the high E. Now, when I get into some of these interior strings, here's the B. It's a little flat. G, a little flat. D, a little flat. A little flat. Back to the E. So since I can't adjust these individually, that's about the best I'm going to get on this thing without really doing a lot of work to it. So, and we're not going to do that. It's not worth it. And also, this is a cheap bridge, very cheap. So who knows what kind of tolerances they used at the factory. And even same with the guitar. I think these should probably be slanted off a little bit more, but it is what it is. We got it playing about as good as we're going to get it. So let's put it all back together and hook it up, see if it works. Last thing to put on is the strap buttons. These old felts are toast, so we're going to put on some new felts. Since I make guitars, I've got a lot of parts, but I will leave links to everything I'm using, so you can click on whatever if you need parts that I'm using in this video. We got one thing left. We got to see if it actually makes noise electrically, right? So you probably notice my voice sounds a little bit different. It's because last time I did a guitar video, I used my microphone. This time I took it off. Last time you couldn't hear the guitar. And not that you really want to hear my wonderful guitar playing, because it's not wonderful, but you do want to know that the thing works, right? After we did all this work to it. So let's see if it works. Does it make noise? Makes noise. Hey, that's a good thing. So this thing plays really nice. It feels nice. All those jagged, sharp fret ends are gone. That divot thing here that we had at the first fret, you can't feel it when you're playing. So that's a good thing. And I think I said before, this is kind of what I consider like a garage sale guitar, because you can find these things at garage sales for 30 or 40 bucks and do a little bit of work to it and make it playable and nice and give it to your kid or who knows what. I think what happens is these guitars are cheap out of the factory. They're like 110, 120 bucks at the store. Parents buy them for their kids, ends up in the closet collecting dust, getting dinged and beat up, and because most of them don't come with cases. And like this one, missing pieces. And so you just do a little bit of work to them and you can make them play pretty darn nice. So let's see if this whole thing works. That's the bridge pickup. That's both pickups. Neck pickup, not bridge pickup. This one is the bridge pickup. You can hear how it's tinnier. That's the bridge pickup. And you can hear the tone works. It rolls off those high notes, high tones. working. So, I mean, find yourself a cheap yard sale guitar, put a little bit of time and money into it. Not a lot of money, just a little bit of money. And make yourself something nice. Or sell it.